Hello, Pierre.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Forged in Aeternum episode on Community Q&A. This is where the developers get questions from you, our community, and we answer a bunch of them. So I have with me Dan and Joel. And without further ado, Chuck, give us the questions.
So, Katie, where is Scott Lane?
Yes,
Good one.
the age-old question. I have actually taken over New World, and I am
Wait, did you guys hear that? Katie has taken over New World.
leading it along with
It's
a new
confirmed.
leadership team, which includes Dan as our creative director. Joel is our product owner for seasons and progression. So
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like, if Scott, with Scott Lane gone, and then we are getting that roadmap and all the hope from the roadmap, maybe Katie is actually good, guys. Let's keep it. Let's keep our hopes up.
they'll be answering some of the questions to me today. And there's a few other folks that have taken over some leadership roles. Very excited for that. We're the ones that brought you the living roadmap, and that is our vision for what we see for New World Aeternum.
See, she just confirmed that. She just confirmed that she and her team made the roadmap.
Looking ahead. So that's where we see the next season, the things that are definitely coming to you within the next couple months. And then we have the things that we currently have in development because we want to be transparent with you about what we currently are working on, and then things that are in exploration. Those are the things that we're really excited about. They're things that we're talking about. We're coming up with some initial designs, maybe a little bit of prototyping, maybe just conversations around it, seeing if we should do it. But yeah, so that was us, and we're really excited. And as far as where Scott is, he has moved to another adventure within Amazon Games.
Will there be additional ways to
Okay, obviously that is Lord of the Rings. It's 100%.
obtain the new craft mods added? The current lack of alternative methods to obtain them beyond aptitude boxes has caused them to be priced astronomically high compared to anything a normal craft mod is priced at.
So that one's me. So we are currently looking and heavily focused on the progression team on in-game rewards. One of those things is how gear interacts with the player, and really encouraging players to chase and want to build sets of gear, that they interact with our gear in a unique way to be able to build something or build out different loadouts, different gameplay styles. You're seeing us experiment with some of those things like artifacts already in the past, and we want to emulate more of that type of feeling. As for the perk items, that's something that we're heavily looking at across the board. You should see something in the next few seasons that is going to address this, and it's just our first step in really building that system out.
There are a lot of archetypes possible.
But that didn't really answer the question, did it? Like, what he said is good, but like, are the perks gonna be cheaper? I did not get that
in this
answer.
game with all the different weapons, but I don't see a weapon designed for assassination. Is this something that could be in the game one day with
Okay.
how the game works?
What is this bullshit question? What is this bullshit question?
I know a lot of people, including me, are waiting for this.
Yeah, I mean,
Who
as
is
far
waiting
as if you're-
for assassination archetype? Archetypes are completely useless, other than your first, I don't know, 20 hours in the game.
could be something specific to this a weapon in the future. Yeah, definitely. It's something that we talk about pretty often. We did announce that we are working on a new weapon, and while we don't have too much to give right now as far as what the weapon is and what it's going to do, I know that we've tossed around words like roguelike, like stealth. Not that these
Yeah, I
are
mean, yeah, it is daggers. I mean, did they mention stealth before the first time around? I don't think they did. That's why some people were actually thinking it could be pistols. But nowadays she said stealth, like it, guys, it's like 100,000,000% it's gonna be daggers.
specific to that upcoming weapon, but it is something that we are also very interested in. So I very much enjoy sneaking up on other players whenever possible and dealing a lot of damage when I can.
Gorgonite weapon schematics.
Good
When?
question.
Season 9.
Nah.
Yes.
There you have it, folks.
Oh,
When will we see new events that are not copy and paste
Season
every
9?
year?
So that one is me again.
Yes.
So events are definitely something that we find to be very important, but right now, and you'll see a consistent trend, I think, as I already answered a question about this, Ultimately, we really want to focus first and foremost with our group on the in-game rewards and the in-game day-to-day content. That doesn't mean that we're going to stop with events. We already are adding new gear and rewards, and we'll keep updating those for the foreseeable future. But
Guys, wait. About Season 9, weapon schematics coming with Season 9, this answers a very important question. You know what it is? There will not be gear score increase in Season 9. Because, those schematics are able, with those schematics, you can craft 725 items. Why else they would launch it in Season 9? It doesn't make sense. We get 750 gear score and then they launch the weapon schematics. Like, it makes zero sense. So, Season 9 is in 2 months. So, it's not. So, there will be 2 seasons till October. Ethan, do you believe that? Do you believe that? Like, do you believe this season thingy in the game that shows the duration is only 2 months? It could be a mistake. Like, the last season lasted for longer than 4 months. Why should they go back to 2 months again? They add weapon schematics and then increase
Before we focus on
or to just troll everyone. Maybe. Okay, let's go back a little.
Weapons.
There you have it, folks.
When will we see new events that are not copy and paste every year?
So that one is me again. So events are definitely something that we find to be very important, but right now,
Then yes, that could happen, but it just goes to show that they will not scrap all the gear that you currently have. You will still build on what you currently have. So it will not be a reset like we had with, I don't know, 700 G score or 725.
and you'll see a consistent trend, I think, as I already answered a question about this. Ultimately, we really want to focus first and foremost with our group on the in-game rewards and the in-game day-to-day content. That doesn't mean that we're going to stop with events.
Globe, yes, daggers have been confirmed. Katie, she didn't say daggers, but she said assassin-like, roguelike, and stealth is involved. And stealth part, they haven't mentioned it before. And if it's stealth involved, 100% it's daggers.
We already are adding new gear and rewards, and we'll keep updating those for the foreseeable future. But before we focus on the minute-to-minute gameplay of those, we really want to focus on the day-to-day gameplay across the entire in-game spectrum of the game. So that is priority number 1 for the progression group before we start to look at seasonal events and making sure that those get a new fresh painted coat. Dyslexia.
No, leave that in.
Yeah, we should. That was fun. But that doesn't mean that we will always have new rewards for them. We're not going to abandon that part, but we really want to focus on the end game first.
Yeah, I think that's really the takeaway there is that, we do know.
Make video is out and they answered the question of Season 9 bringing weapon schematics. They're not coming before Season 9.
And believe that the in-game events are absolutely important.
You think it will be a hard run globe? I think it's gonna be a skill. It must be a skill in the Daggers 3. Must be. There might be a potion or hard rune added too, but I think it will be part of the skill tree exclusively.
But where we're focusing right now is on the end game. Yeah.
Players who were not able to log into the last week of the PvP server were not able to receive their reward. Is there going to be a remedy for this?
There was a couple issues, and we're going to make sure that the players that missed out on some of their items got it. If you feel like you are not getting the item, or if you feel like you missed that opportunity, feel free to reach out to our customer service, and we can definitely look at that on a case-by-case basis. We just have to validate if you actually earned it or if there was an issue on our side, and we'll absolutely get that for you.
Can we ever expect to see more frequent weapon balancing? OP setups are running seasons at a time.
So right now, our combat balance cadence is we do our massive package of balance changes on a seasonal basis.
And then they forget about Void Blade, yes.
And then we do spot checks throughout the season. Some notable examples of that from recent past would be like the Burninator issue or the Elemental Band issue before that. We are actively in recurring conversations on a week-to-week basis to talk about combat balance. It is critical. In terms of a cadence, it's basically what we have now. But we are going to continue to monitor and make sure that the metas that we introduce with our new artifacts and perks kind of stay under control. We like artifacts and perks. We like that we're constantly changing up the game. We know that that's a downside of that approach, but we think it's worth it.
Yeah, and the other piece of this is we have these previews for new game modes, and we want to make sure that when we make these meta changes or when we make these adjustments that are going to change power in the world, we also want to make sure that it's still fun and exciting for those game modes. So I will say that while we want to update very frequently to make sure that we're addressing the community's biggest concerns, this is also something where we want to make sure that we're getting all of the data in order to make the best decision, and that includes after our previews have ended.
But wait, there's more. So with a lot of the overhaul that we're doing for gear, there's also going to be a very large meta shift in the next couple seasons. So that's also going to take some time to stabilize. We don't want to
Really? What is going to
make
change?
drastic changes, but we will absolutely, as Dan said, making adjustments on high impact items such as, like you said, the Burninator and the Elemental Band. But there's going to be a very large meta shift, and we're going to want to wait to see how that plays out as players learn it when we do those big updates for rewards. We think it's going to be very good for content overall, though.
The Season 8 countdown timer in the Pass Rewards section says 56 days
Important
left
question.
till the end of the season. Does that mean Season 9 will begin in July?
That is an incorrect number of days. So that was a bug, and it's going to be fixed.
Can you comment on the decision to make Expedition
So guys, season 9 is gonna last. Sorry, season 8 is gonna last until October when we get the expansion. Okay, and we are getting the weapon schematics in season 9 as they confirmed.
Unleashed active only 1 week per month? It initially sounded like this was going to be a permanent addition to the game, which was very encouraging given the community's desire for new daily content.
Yeah, so obviously what we have now is a starting point. We have 5 bosses in, and we're going to rotate them, but we also needed to make sure that we had a pretty organized live content schedule for Season 8. But we totally reserve the right to watch, see what happens, maybe change up the cadence, which we can do pretty in real time.
The foundation is built, and that's something we're absolutely going to look at exploring. And I think that there's a lot of room for us to grow this type of content depending on player reception. But this is just the first stab. This is us really taking a look at these bosses and seeing what makes them fun, what makes them tick, and are these the right rewards. Absolutely is something we can address in the future, though.
We want to make sure that we have the scheduling accurate, that everything is working as intended, and as Dan, you mentioned, this is all configurable. We can move them so that they're happening more frequently. So that's something that we wanted to make sure that we had the ability to do because we feel strongly that we'll want to make those adjustments. So that is a conversation that we are actually having.
Can we expect a territory standing rework?
There's a lot that we would like to do. There's a lot of different ideas on the table. But where we've landed with it is, I think that the first step that makes the most sense is to focus on pickup wars as a feature, because the biggest problem with the territory system is that there's not enough war to go around. There's not enough content there.
Get more people into war.
But didn't they understand the question wrong? This guy, whoever asked the question, said territory standing reworked, and they understood it as territory ownership. But I'm glad that they actually misunderstood it, because that's more important, right? Like them mentioning pickup wars once again is me.
Yeah, and then so if we get pickup wars out, not only does it address that problem the most directly, but it also gives companies a way to practice wars whenever they want, spin up wars whenever they want, and try out new fighters whenever they want, a really effective way. So that's the first step in terms of what we do with the territory system. And then once that's out, we'll have a look at the actual open world territory system for guilds.
Yeah, and one thing that has remained in the backlog, and again, in full transparency, it's not something that we have planned, but I know that it's something that I have wanted, and it's something that I know players have talked about, but timing-wise, development planning-wise, it just doesn't make sense right now from just a production standpoint, is the card system. So updating that card system so we can go back and change where we put all of our territory standing points and all that. So that's something that I know would be.
He actually got the question right, but again, I'm glad that he misunderstood it and talked more and expanded on the pickup wars issue.
really interesting, and it would give us this different different dynamic for how we kind of manage and manipulate the way that our character lives in the world. But again, that's not something that we are actively working on, but it is something that's in the backlog.
It's one of the ones that we've actually looked into in the past, and it's just more expensive
It's
than it
more
needs to be.
expensive than you think it would be.
And yeah, it's another question kind of looked like it was about QOL stuff, but like it's in general like we kind of have to like go step by step. So in terms of QOL, the next big thing we're going to do is the global storage changes.
Yeah.
That's like 100% of players like deal with that pain every day. So it's like we got to work our way down the list in order.
Can you clarify whether selling carries is permitted under the TOS? And more broadly, whether this aligns to your intent for how the game should be played?
Yeah, so selling carries is not our intention for how this, how it should work, that you can sell a carry for the raid or mutations. But that's kind of part and parcel for an MMO, that does happen in that ecosystem. But what we're looking at instead is how to make it easier for people to join those different pieces of content. How do we get you into a raid so that you don't have to purchase a carry, so that you can join other people? So that's actually.
So they're not going to punish people for selling or buying carriers. They just want to make it more possible, reachable for casual players to get into them.
What we're looking into is looking for raid, looking for group, and making that a more streamlined process to get more folks in.
Yeah, I believe the Living Roadmap has raid difficulties on there, and that's something that we're very passionate about. We want to make sure that all players get a chance to get into this content, not just an elite few. It's not as fun when you're getting dragged through versus actually accomplishing that with either peers or a feeling where your group is actually being challenged, and we want to make sure that we get that for all types of players.
Why isn't there more variety and better looking transmogs, like actual cute girly ones?
We've actually been talking
Really, guys? This is what you asked?
about that recently, and there are some new offerings that are in the pipe for the summer, which are pretty cool.
Yep.
Can you make worm armor craftable?
That is something that we are looking at. As a whole, we are looking at overhauling all of in-game rewards, especially for in-game pinnacle content. You should see a change there in the next couple of seasons. Stay tuned. We definitely have big plans.
Please tell us something about Umbral V2
Important
or how
question.
future gearing will be done. Content gearing relies too much on the hoplite gear.
Umbral is something that we are very passionate about. I think that the old system had flaws, and the dark matter system also has its own flaws. We are heavily looking at taking some of those lessons between both of those systems. We want to make it more systemic. We want to make sure that it's much easier to use. We also want to make sure that Umbral as a whole is spread out more, so you have different ways to get it across different.
Guys, they're actually planning to do it like the way I mentioned, every single activity giving out Umbral shares as a reward. I mean, that's what I understood as far until now. I really hope that they make it that way. Like, this can save New World. If they fix gear progression as a whole, it can save New World.
Different content. One of the failures of the first Umbral system is most of it was in, not all of it, but most of it was in expeditions, and those players ended up with thousands of it. And that's the other thing. We don't want to end up with a player just sitting on stacks of it, so it's a worthless currency. So we are actually looking at the new version of Umbral becoming a literal currency versus an item. I think that's one of the things that we'll go into in the future. Beyond that, we also want to make sure it feels like it is a very direct goal for you on a week-to-week cadence, where I know exactly I can go to these 5 places, I can get some amount of Umbral, it feels valuable, it feels like it's valuing my time, and that I always know that the gear that I...
Did you guys hear what he said there? That was the important keyword. Valuing my time. That is what MMOs need. And New World today is not that. Okay? Hopefully they actually mean what they're saying. If they are, then there is hope for this game.
I'm getting post that update will be usable with Umbral. It'll be systemic. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a specific named item or a specific artifact. Everything at that gear score level that we define with the new system will be something that you can...
So did you hear that? So it doesn't have to be a named, or like, even as a crafted item, you can just upgrade the gear score using Umbral shards. Which is good. And if they started from like only 700, all the alt items could be useful as well. But even if they start with 725, I think it's still good. It's not bad.
You can level up.
Yeah, we've got like like a crazy conspiracy map of all the end game content in the game, and we've like kind of crafted our big strategy around like how do we make it all matter. Umbrals is key to that.
Yes.
Will console-only characters ever be given the chance to swap over to crossplay in any form?
So I am going to assume that this question is asking if you're a console player on a console-only world, are you going to be able to go to a cross-play world within your region? That is something that we are actively working on and targeting Season 9 for when you will be able to do that.
Yeah.
If you mean cross progression, that's different.
Yeah, your
Yeah,
account doesn't
cross-progression's
transfer from a console to a PC. Those are separate.
Yeah, and that's not so we are, if it's talking about a console-only world to a cross-play world to play with PC players on a more populated world, then that is something that is in the works. If it is cross-progression that you're asking about, that is not something that we are working on.
Any news on invasions? Anything? Bueller?
Like I was saying before, pickup war
Visions.
in terms of that specific part of instanced content. Pickup war is our top priority. We started.
I like this guy. Guys, he is passionate about pickup wars. That's all that matters. Okay, invasions are not the priority. Thank you.
Prototyping and designing out what we were going to do with casual invasions, and it's a cool design. It's going to really freshen it up as well as make it more accessible to more players. It'll be like on the pug system, but we had to decide one or the other. So we decided pickup war for right now. PvE players will have tons coming soon, but it's the order of operations there is pickup war, and then we'll come back to that.
What kind of investments for PvP are you making? And what data did you get from the first PvP server? If there's another, what are your plans for addressing that data? And do you see a long-term opportunity for a PvP server?
So we got a lot of data around the seasonal server, and you're going to see this with the second seasonal server. One of the first things that we knew going into it, but we were able to address a little bit better in the second server, we want to make these feel more like events, almost like a game mode. We want to be able to break the rules in a way that would potentially be detrimental to the main game. But we do want to make sure that they are isolated and not splitting the player base so much. So the second seasonal server is going to be a much smaller time span. It's much more expedited. We did kind of a fun, silly quest with Aelstrom that just gets you through, I think it's like 2 to 4 hours. A slower player might take 6, but a really good player that knows how to go farm things is going to be very quick.
Slower players are not inherently bad.
I didn't say bad.
Just enjoy it.
I am a farmer, but I'm also a troll and a PvP ganker. So yes. I think that those are the biggest lessons we learned. We really want to make sure that these feel like fun, game mode-esque experiences. Beyond that, as a PvP server as a whole, it's something that we do want to revisit in the future. It's not currently in front of us, but it is something that we feel we learned a lot from Ethereal Gear and Conqueror's Gear, and we want to experiment with that, and I think there's a lot of things we can do both in a seasonal capacity or in potentially live services as something that exists for the normal Prime worlds.
Great, and then we're also, while we talk about PvP, that's one of our focuses when we come to the game modes. So the PvP game modes are something that we are absolutely investing in and something that we want to keep doing. We have another preview for Capture the Flag coming out. We also have the Bare Bones OPR happening. So there's a lot of fun stuff happening in addition to the PvP server. And so we're gathering a lot of information from what's fun for you. And then also looking at what that looks like on our end for the future, right? Is this something that we can implement again and you guys will feel rewarded when we do that? Or is this something where we need to put our focus elsewhere? So make sure that you participate in those preview weekends because it really helps us, and in the seasonal server because it really helps us figure out what you want to do. Yeah, so thank you for joining us for this community Q&A Forged in Aeternum. If you liked what you saw, make sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate your time. Normally we don't do a community question with these ones, but I'm going to do one anyways. Looking ahead, knowing all the topics that we covered today, any that we missed or that we covered in a Discord Q&A recently, what's another Forged in Aeternum episode that you want to see? Thank you so much, and we'll see you in Aeternum.
Okay, guys, let's talk about it now. Like back then, last year we would have a Q&A like this, or dev update video. We would have a lot more facepalm moments. Don't you agree? Like, okay, there were some of those here as well, like transmog question and all that. But the answers that we have gotten to some of these questions were actually good. That's exactly most of us players wanted to hear. The thing is, I know you might be like, hey, these might be empty promises, but back then we weren't even getting empty promises. Like we weren't getting anything. We were just getting completely out of touch answers to questions. So maybe we shouldn't be all pessimistic about this. Like, okay, like I don't personally hate the way Scott managed the game. It might just be that he has worked on New World for so long, and after some point you lose your passion. It's just bound to happen, and you need something fresh. Maybe that's what was dragging Scott down. And now with Katie taking his place, I'm sure she is excited for the new role. And if you're excited, if you're enthusiastic about something, you are just taking over. You're most likely gonna do well. And like, okay, we haven't seen anything done yet, but if we take their word for it, I think it's looking good for the future. Like, this video could have gone much worse. We have seen a lot worse videos, and we were like, okay, fuck this game and let's just leave. I don't get that vibe right now. Okay, they are taking some things a little bit slow, but maybe maybe this is it. Maybe they will actually fix the game because I can see now they can actually understand what the core issues are. Gear progression system being really bad, being the main one. They understand that's a problem. So, guys, this is the first part of you know recognizing or identifying this problem. This part they got it covered this time. So let's see if they can actually deliver on the things that they're promising. That's what I feel like right now. Again, I'm hopeful that some things will happen. I'm a little bit upset that the season 8 is gonna last for like what 5 months till October. Pretty much. I mean, we assume that it will last till October because we expect for an expansion in October. Maybe they bring the expansion in September. You know. But yeah, that's how I see it. How I see it, guys. What do you guys think? Or excuse they just incompetent? I mean, Geraldo, maybe they were just, not they were just not able to do what they were supposed to do. Because, Scott was the manager and all these people were being told to do things that they didn't personally think was good for the game, but they had to. I mean, at some point they are taking orders too from their upper management. So maybe let's give them a chance. Maybe let's give them a chance. Isabel, it takes a lot of tries. I have an account with, and it does. I have one account without the healer head for all these months. But that's the big problem. I don't know, guys. Like, we have a new team, and the roadmap seems, optimistic. Seems positive, and maybe they will figure things out. Maybe they will figure things out. Isabella, maybe it's your healer arc now. What do you think?